Welcome to Implausible Nature, your home for all things Black Templar. On today's Templar Tips, we are talking Math Hammer again, where I do the math so you don't have to. In today's video, we are going to be discussing Sword Brethren and the various buffs that they can get, and which of those buffs is going to be the best, both with single leader and multi-leader. I've even included a couple different ways that you can run them. So let's first talk about Sword Brethren themselves. So there's a number of different ways to run them, and there's been a lot of talk about what's the best way to run them. And so we're going to take a look at that and see how they stack up. So obviously there is the classic 5-man squad from 9th edition, as we called it, full Gucci, taking every option there is. So you're going to have the Lightning Claws, the Thunder Hammer, everybody else with mastercrafted power weapons, and then the pistols and whatnot, of course. We're not going to be talking about ranged damage in this. This is purely melee damage. I do also want to point out that all of these damage numbers that we're about to look at are going to be strictly the squad itself. We're not taking into account the characters, because the characters are pretty much always going to do the same amount of damage regardless, with a few minor things, because they can only go with so many, they can only be paired with so many buffs, right? So the characters are largely going to not change based on that. It's really the squad's damage output that is going to change drastically depending on which leader and which buff they get. So moving on, we also have an option to just take all mastercrafted power weapons. This definitely simplifies rolling for you, and it plays more into having a marshal getting those critical 5s for those lethal hits versus the Lightning Claw and the Thunder Hammer don't really benefit from that at all. So, and then lastly is an option for chainswords. This has become something that people have talked about. Are chainswords worth it now? They still hit on 2s. They went to 6 attacks each versus 3 attacks with your mastercrafted power weapon. So they do have the sustained hits, the same as our Crusader Squad. So I've done the math on them as well. So before we get into the actual math itself, let's take a look at the units that we're pitting them against, and I'll go over a little bit of why we chose those. So, of course, the classic Space Marines, the MEQ Marine equivalent, tough 4, 3+ save. This has sort of been the standard as far as like what can a unit kill for a very long time. And to be honest, I don't know that it really is anymore. The meta has shifted to much tougher units. Tough 4, 3+ save is not really durable anymore. It's not a great stat line anymore, but I included it here just for the sake of completeness and the sake of tradition, as it were. Tough 5, 3+ save is a much more common profile these days, so I've included that as well. I also wanted to include a unit that you might be throwing Sword Bros into, which is Death Shroud. Death Guard are very popular right now and very potent, even after their nerfs. So you've got that tough 7, 2+, 4++ save. I also included a Rhino, basically a tough 9, 3+ save thing. There's a lot of that stat line out there. Armigers are like that as well, although they can get a Feel No Pain, which I did not include in this math for that. I just did the straight tough 9, 3+ save. I included your standard vehicle stat line for most tanks, which is tough 10, 3+. I also included something large like a Greater Demon or something like that. That's going to be tough 11 with a 4+ invulnerable save. So I included that for us as well. And then, of course, the big one are big Questoris-sized knights with a Feel No Pain, tough 11, a bunch of wounds, 3+ save, and that 6+ Feel No Pain. So let's first take a look at the math here for the full Gucci squad, as we called it, including both the Thunder Hammer and the Lightning Claws. And as you can see here, quite the spread of our different buffs. So just to kind of quickly go over what the buffs are and why we're doing these. So critical 5s, that is the Marshal's buff, of course. Reroll 1s, that is the basically the Castellan's buff. There are also a number of stratagems that we have access to. that give the reroll ones as well. Extra AP, so this can go on a Castellan, or excuse me, this can go on a chaplain or a justiciar. In our Companions of Vehemence detachment is a enhancement there. Full rerolls to hit, that will be your Castellan buff. I've included Grimaldus in here as well. Grimaldus is full rerolls to hit and +1 AP. Then your Marshal and reroll and your Castellan with full rerolls to hit. So that's critical fives and full rerolls to hit. We've included Helbricht, and then of course Helbricht and a Castellan as well. So to kind of break down this math, you can see here the critical fives really not very good. All of these are mostly damage increases, with the exception of the AP right here, because you're losing. You're not gaining anything with the extra AP into the things with invulnerable saves. But the critical fives here, pretty low buffs because there's only 3 guys with mastercrafted power weapons in the squad. So not a great buff here. Reroll ones is also not super great in and of itself, simply because it is a lesser buff. Most of the things hit on 2s anyway, except for the Thunderhammer. That's why I included it in this one, because the Thunderhammer hits on 3s. Extra AP, a significant buff to anything that doesn't have an invul save. You're going to get a plus 20% increase in that. Reroll hits does a little bit better than reroll ones, and that's because now that Thunderhammer gets that full rerolls to hit, which is nice. Grimaldus, same thing. Now you're combining the AP and the reroll hits into a pretty significant buff for most things. Obviously, not quite as good into the things with invulnerable saves, because you just lose out that AP since they're already AP2. Now we're going to get into the best of the best here. Crit fives with reroll hits. Pretty solid performance. Almost 30% or more increase across the board. Same thing with Helbricht. Just Helbricht by himself provides a pretty potent buff. That +1 attack is really nice. As well as the +1 strength. Hits some breakpoints on several of these categories here, showing over 60% in some of these, which is really nice. And then Helbricht plus the Castellan, so rerolls to hit, +1 strength, +1 attack is going to be the best of the best across the board. Into some of these tougher targets, you're looking at a almost 100% increase, 92, 91 here. Really, really strong buff. Obviously, it is more expensive. It's over 300 points for that 5-man squad. So something to keep in mind if you do plan on running that. Now let's move on to pure mastercrafted power weapons. We're going to see a much tighter spread here because number one, critical fives are going to do better overall because they're all critting on fives. They all have lethal hits now, which is nice. Reroll ones and reroll hits are basically the same thing. They already hit on 2s, all of them. So not a huge buff here, just about 16, 17%. So not amazing. Extra AP, again, solid output for this. Does nothing for you into something with an invul because you're already AP2. Grimaldus, same thing as before, putting out a solid buff just like before. So now here's where it gets a little more interesting. We're going to add the critical fives and the rerolls to hit, and pretty significant showing here. Now, something that I want to point out is I did include fishing for fives when appropriate as well. So you're not going to want to fish for fives, for crit fives, if you are realistically, if you're wounding on 4+ or better. So 4+, 3+, 2+, you're not going to want to fish for fives there. It can actually be actively detrimental if you do. If you're wounding on a 4+, it's only about a 6% increase in your damage. That is not really worth the possibility of you getting spiked by bad luck and rolling a whole bunch of extra ones, which can really hurt you. So, really, where you're going to want to fish is at the wounding on fives and better. And you can see here where it does significantly when you're wounding on fives or better, it is doing significantly better, 70% increase into those tough targets, T10 and higher. Once again, though, Castellan and Helbrecht still take the cake. Getting full rerolls to hit, +1 strength, +1 attack is just really, really good. Although the fishing for fives is quite a bit cheaper than the Helbrecht combo. Not a bad take either. Now, there has been also a lot of discussion on which squad is better. Should I take all Mastercrafted power weapons, or should I, are the Lightning Claws and the Thunder Hammers worth it? And let's look at them together here. And you can see, depending on what you're taking, if you are critting on fives, if you have the Marshall and the Castellan combo, you can see they are roughly the same. The tougher targets are going to be a little bit better, about 8 to 9% better than with the Lightning Claws and Thunderhammer. With Helbrecht and the Castellan, it's roughly the same. It's barely within a few percentage points of each other, so not a huge difference here. They're pretty much the same. You can feel confident in running whatever you want. If I'm taking a Marshall and a Castellan, I'm probably going to consider the Mastercrafted power weapon for everyone, just simply because, number one, I can roll the entire squad's attacks all together. They all hit on twos. They're all Mastercrafted power weapons. They all have lethal hits. So you're going to roll much faster, number one, but also they do synergize just a little bit better. You can spike harder if you're fishing, but having the Lightning Claw with all those extra attacks, re-rolling wounds, having a Strength 8 Thunderhammer, not necessarily a bad thing to have in the squad. Take that information and do what you will, but just know that they are pretty close to the same. One is not significantly better than the other. All right, so those are kind of going to be the two main squads that you're going to be using here. Like I said, I did do the math on Chainswords. Let's take a look at that, and it is not nearly as good of a look for it. Some of the buffs you can see, like Helbrecht and Castellan, Grimaldus, the crit 5 and reroll hits is pretty nice. I also included lethal hits for them because adding in lethals to those chainswords can be nice. And it's pretty decent increase, 32% into the tougher targets with that lieutenant. However, if you look at the actual numbers here, it's pretty bad. This is a 5-man squad doing baseline 5 damage into anything that's higher than tough 7 is pretty awful. So an increase of 32% sounds great, but it's only 6.6 damage. So we're not going to be sinking Helbrecht and a Castellan in here to get 10 damage to a Rhino. It's just simply you're going to want the Mastercrafted power weapons. They might be cute as like a by themselves 105.4-man squad if you just want to have them to clear some chaff. But honestly, we have other units that do that just as well. And it's not like Mastercrafted power weapon bros struggle to kill things. So speaking of squad size, you can run a 4-man squad of the all Mastercrafted power weapon guys. The Lightning Claws and Thunderhammers are per 5-man, so you can't take them at all in a 4-man. My Mastercrafted power weapon squad math here is for a 5-man. If you want to know what the 4-man can do, you're just going to take these numbers and decrease them by 20%. that will get you those 4-man numbers on the damage output. So there you have it, guys. That is the math hammer on this. I've put a link to the spreadsheet so that everybody can view it at your leisure down in the description. So check that out. And let me know what your thoughts are. How are you running your sword bros? What combos do you like the best? And don't forget to like, subscribe, do all the YouTube things. So that way we can continue to grow the channel. Check out our YouTube memberships and our Patreon as well. We've got a ton of great things, ton of great benefits on that. As well as we have a Discord, very active, especially lately. I have a really great community of folks talking Black Templars every day. So until next time, keep on crusading.